Anyway, let's get this through. We did Nilo for 30 minutes. Now let's do Cyno for 30 minutes. Cyno, I'm going to be reading this the first time you guys are reading this. I haven't had enough time to kind of sit down and try to understand his kit to a certain degree, so I'll probably sit here trying to brainstorm as well, and I'll probably take some ideas from chat because I'm kind of a dum-dum. But what I can say for certain is that his crit damage, or bonus crit damage, is his Ascension stat. So if we look at the other characters that have this, which I believe is Hu Tao and Arataki Ito, I think, it could also be someone else. Well, they're all main DPSs, and Arataki Ito is known for doing some of the highest DPS in the game. He's a main DPS. He's a crit damage. It's fucking crit damage. That's all it is. He can get to a total of, what is that, 88.4% crit damage at level 90. So do that straight away, I think. Just do it. Go. That's that. Onto his skills, though. Normal attack is not important. I don't believe. I believe here he gets another set of normal attacks in his burst, which we'll talk about in a second. His normal attack, irrelevant. He just spear attacks. He's a spear user. Obviously, sorry, Electro Spear user. I didn't point that out. Electro Spear user, Foxman, whatever the Anubis guy. It's pretty cool. Electro, whatever. Anyway, his skill, quite simple, quite straightforward. Have you ever seen Bennett's skill? Essentially the same thing. Performs a swift thrust dealing electro damage along a path, so it's a bit more of a frontal line attack. When Cyno is under the Pact Sworn Path Clearer state, triggered by Sacred Rite of the Wolf's Swiftness, which is his burst, he will instead unleash a Mortuary Rite that deals thunderous AoE electro damage and extends the duration of Pact Sworn Path Clearer. Just extends his fucking burst duration, that's all it does really, and does more damage. The damage difference, is it substantial? Yes, actually. Looking at 13, not in burst mode, 277%. In burst mode, 333.2%. So it's pretty good. Pretty good. And it gives it about a 4-second duration bonus. That might actually make it so we can extend it by a fair bit. So you can give your burst an extra 4 seconds every single time you use his skill in his burst. As for the cooldown, 7.5 seconds. And monetary, or rather, I guess mortuary right cooldown. This ability is 3 seconds. That's not important though. His skill's not important. You're not going to really fucking pay attention to his skill. His burst. Have you guys ever seen Razor? Well, this is Razor on crack. That's essentially the way you can look at Mr. Cyno. Calls upon a divine spirit to possess him, Anubis, morphing into the Pact Sworn Path Clearer, and then the Pact Sworn Path Clearer, Cyno's normal charge and plunging attacks will be converted to electro damage. That cannot be overridden, so you can use Bennett with him, because he'll always do electro. And then Cyno's elemental mastery and resistance to interruption will increase, and he gains immunity to electro charge damage. Essentially, you can do this very easily against Hydro and Electro enemies, so you won't get that stagger effect. And you'll also be immune to the damage part of it, which is great. But yes, the key thing to take away, elemental mastery. He may or may not be an elemental mastery scaler in some way. We'll have to explore. This effect will be cancelled when he leaves the field and lasts a maximum of 18 seconds. I'm not a massive fan of this kind of stuff. I think they should just remove the fact that you can cancel the effect when they leave the field. I don't think that's a very player-friendly thing to do. You look at a character like Razor, like Xiao. I don't use them ever because I just don't like the idea that I can cancel their bursts just by accidentally switching, or switching because I forgot to do something on another character. It's kind of annoying. Characters like Noelle, I like using more. You press a burst, you can switch between your characters and then go back to Noelle and continue swinging. Whatever though, maximum of 18 seconds. Anyway, onto his damage. You just kind of get a second normal attack stuff. What's the value compared to the initial one? His initial attacks are 117, 114. His burst is 187, 197, 250, a bunch more, a bunch more, a bunch more. Razor. 5-star Razor just does Razor damage. The only difference is that Cyno during his burst is only electro, whilst Razor is a bit of a physical hybrid. Physical electro hybrid during his burst. Anyway, elemental mastery bonus is a 100 static. No matter what level, you'll always get 100 elemental mastery from just being in his burst. The basic duration is 10 seconds. Now, let's take that into consideration. How much can we extend his burst by using his skill in his burst? Well, we know that the cooldown is 3 seconds, and we know that we get a duration boost of 4 seconds. Well, we can do some back and forth. We pop his burst, press it immediately. We go up from 10 seconds to 14 seconds. Then 3 seconds pass, we're down to 11 seconds. We press it again. You can go up to 13. So you can stay in his burst a lot. Goes down by 3, down to 10. Or sorry, down to, Am I math right? I don't know how to do maths, but you can be in his burst for a long time. Very good. Cooldown 10 seconds and energy cost of 80, so he's actually going to be quite costly on the energy there. You might want to run him with a Raiden Shogun potentially. So I'm not good at maths. I can't figure out how much. Maybe you can stay in his burst permanently, but would you want to? Probably not. Probably not. Onto his passives though. First one doesn't matter. Second passive, Featherfall Judgment. When Cyno is in his burst state activated by his burst, Cyno will enter the End Seer state at intervals. If he activates Sacred Rite Chasmic Soulfarer, while affected by this stance, he will activate the Judication effect, increasing the damage of this Secret Rite Chasmic Soulfarer by 35%, and firing off 3 Dust Stalker bolts that deal 50% of Cyno's attack as electro damage. Dust Stalker bolt damage is considered elemental skill damage. What does this all mean? Periodically, when you're in his burst, when you press his skill, you deal more damage. That's about it. How much damage? 50% of his attack is electro, but it's alright. You just deal more damage when you press his skill in his burst. That's not an important thing. That's just static amounts of damage. As for his second passive, Cyno's damage values will be increased based on his elemental mastery as follows. This is the important thing. His elemental burst's normal attack damage is increased by 100% of his elemental mastery. Elemental mastery scaler. And then his Dust Stalker bolt damage from his Ascension talent, the one that we just read, is increased by 250% of his elemental mastery damage. So that 50% is increased by 250 of elemental mastery. It's a static amount of damage that you get from his elemental mastery 2 as a thing, so it's fine. Yeah, so elemental mastery scaling on him. His normal attack damage is increased by 100%, so will you want to funnel into elemental mastery? Maybe, because now that is everything that you get with him. Now we're going to go into constellations in just a second. Will you be an elemental mastery scaler with Cyno? No C's anything? C0? Probably not. Probably not, really. To be quite frank, because there's a lot of stuff that also scales off his base attack, and his abilities themselves aren't the things that scale off of elemental mastery, you're going to treat elemental mastery here as a fun little bonus instead of an actual scaling stat. It will still probably be a lot more value to just go into attack percent pumping with elemental mastery as a substat, because they directly scale still with attack instead of elemental mastery. If this right here was 2000% of elemental mastery, then that would have been a different case, but it's still just elemental mastery is going to be a small bonus. Obviously, you can use characters like Diona to further enhance that, Kazuha as well to further enhance that elemental mastery and boost it even further. But going on to his constellations, his first one, after using his Sacred Rite Wolf Swiftness, which is his skill, Cyno's normal attack speed will be increased by 20% for 10 seconds. One of the only characters in the game that has a massive 20% attack speed boost from anything. So C1 is essentially like immediate value. And then if the Judication effect on the Ascension talent Featherfall Judgment is triggered during Secret Rite Chasmic Soulfarer, the duration of this increases will, duration of this increase will be refreshed. You need to unlock that passive to have that. Essentially, you can just have 20, during his burst, you have 20% attack speed increase. It's a bit unnecessary to have all these extra, like, words, but it is what it is. 20% attack speed increase. It's pretty fucking crazy, to be honest, for 10 seconds, obviously, but whatever. And then, another thing, this is very similar to Nilo. His C2 is similar to Nilo, sorry. So when Cyno's normal attacks hit opponents, his normal attack, crit rate, and crit damage, specifically normal attack, no charge, no plunge, his crit rate and crit damage will be increased by 3 and 6 respectively for 4 seconds. This effect can be triggered once every 0.1 seconds, max of 5 stacks. Each stack's duration is counted independently. So it's not you can't refresh the cooldown. You would just have 3, and obviously if in conjunction with the attack speed, you can have a lot of them. But yeah, You can potentially have a maximum of 15 and 30% increase to your crit rate and crit damage respectively, but it's going to be essentially like a drop-off build-up effect. So you're going to hit 5 stacks very quickly, and then one's going to drop off for a fraction of a second, and then the minute you do another attack, it'll be built up again. So you're going to be fluctuating between the 12 and 12 and 27 and fucking 15 and 30 range for your crit rate and crit damage respectively. It's okay, it's great, it's nothing to like write home about. It's essentially Nilo's but kind of weaker because you can't have it permanently, and it's only during his burst and only for his normal attacks, whilst something like Nilo's is fucking permanent. Anyway, regardless, not talking about Nilo here. C4, when Cyno is in the Pack Swarm Path Clearer Elemental Burst state, triggered by his burst, after he triggers Electro Charge, Overload, Quicken, Hyperbloom, and Electro Swirl or Electro Crystallization reaction, he will restore 3 elemental energy for nearby party members except himself. This effect can occur 5 times within 1 use of Sacred Rite Wolf's Swiftness. Yes, he is, at C4, very well synergized with the character like Raiden Shogun, because they'll essentially fuel each other. Specifically only if you have Cyno at C4. They will fuel each other. Cyno pops his burst, or rather you pop everyone else's bursts, and then you pop Cyno's burst, and then Cyno restores the rest of your party's your elemental energy, and he only does do it to a total of 15 elemental energy, but something is better than nothing. He restores 15 back, and then you once his burst is over, or once you're done using him, switch to Raiden Shogun, slash the Nebula open, restore his burst back, pop everyone else's stuff, and then go back into Cyno. That's the gameplay loop at C4 for Cyno. But sadly, not everyone's going to have C4 because putting money into Genshin. No. Anyway, C6 Raiment just scales. This is a big one. After using Sacred Rite Wolf's Swiftness or triggering the Judification effect of the passive talent Featherfall Judgment, Cyno will gain 4 stacks of the Day of the Jackal effect. Crazy. When he hits opponents with normal attacks, he will consume 1 stack of Day of the Jackal to fire off 1 Duststalker bolt. A maximum of 1 Duststalker bolt can be unleashed this way every 0.4 seconds. It's not that good, is it? It's not that great, I'll be honest with you, it's not that great. Essentially, you kind of just deal a bit more damage every 0.4 seconds. Yes? Yes? I don't fucking know. That's not that great, I'll be honest with you. Because essentially, Day of the Jackal gives you 4 of the, what are they called again? Duststalker bolts. We go back, Duststalker bolts only deal 50% of Cyno's attack as electro damage. Will they do a decent amount of damage? Yes. Will they do crazy damage? No. So, we'll see, is C6 value? No. That's the end of the story. Now, as for the weapon, or signature weapon of his, it is the Staff of the Scarlet Sands. This bad boy, we may have seen it in the cinematic with him. Staff of the Scarlet Sands, and this is what's going to give you a lot of elemental mastery, but not before you get a lot of crit rate. This is the first spear in the game with 44% crit rate. That's obviously a 5-star, because cringe. But yes, it is essentially the Jade Cutter and essentially like the Hunter's Path, 44% crit rate at level 90. So it's going to be just good for that. Just getting your crit rate problem solved. But what it's not going to be good for is the ability. That's not good for everyone. The equipping character gains 52% of their elemental mastery as bonus attack. When an elemental skill hits the opponent, the Dream of the Scarlet Sands effect will be gained for 10 seconds. The equipping character will gain 28% of their elemental mastery as bonus attack, max 3 stacks. My throat is dying, but essentially, it's okay. It's not going to be ridiculous. It's not going to be not ridiculous. It's actually, now that I'm thinking about it, because this is my first time actually looking at this, to be honest, with a serious look. Hu Tao can use it, probably. Zhao can probably use it as well. No, can't. Sorry, no, he can't. He's the opposite way around. It's okay. It's good. Thumbs up. It'll work on him. This is what you're going to want on him, to be quite frank. There's no argument about it. you're gonna want this on him because of the 52% of your elemental mastery as bonus attack. Because of the weapon, you may or may not want to actually funnel into elemental mastery. Will you do it all the way? Will all your pieces be elemental mastery? No. Will you maybe do the 4 set of the new artifact that gives elemental mastery in the second half of the 4 set? Maybe. You won't do a full elemental mastery funnel, but you'll do a decent elemental mastery funnel because 52 of even like 300 elemental mastery is still 150. And then you can get 28% 3 times. So you can get a lot of elemental mastery bonus. You can get slightly more than double your elemental mastery. Sorry, not double. Slightly more than your actual elemental mastery converted into attack. And as we know, getting any amount of attack in this game is a massive damage bonus. Simple as that. He almost is like this weapon itself actually. Holy shit, I'm having a revelation as I speak. This weapon kind of acts like a second Bennett, if I'm to be honest. Kind of. You know, specifically for the character equipping it, this weapon acts kind of like a second Bennett based on your elemental mastery. And you combo Bennett with it, your attack can go through the roof. So, actually, really good character. Will you base him on elemental mastery though? Absolutely not. Still attack percent with elemental mastery sprinkled in here and there. Cyno is done though. That has been Cyno. Is he going to be a good character? Fuck if I know. But he's a flagship character, so if he's not good, people are going to riot. That's that.